Very good morning to one and all. I feel immensely happy to associate myself with this inaugural function of the SLI International Webinar on role of nanotechnology in current scenario, organized by SLI Webcasting Center, Department of Botany, Sri Venkateswara University, Tirupati. Nanotechnology is a common word these days, but many of us do not realize the amazing impact it has on our daily lives. Nanotechnology is science, engineering and technology conducted at nanoscale, which is about 1 to 100 nanometers. Nanotechnology is a rapidly expanding field. Scientists and engineers are having great success making materials at the nanoscale to take advantage of enhanced properties such as higher strength, lighter weight, increased electrical conductivity and chemical reactivity compared to other large-scale equivalents. I hope that this two-day webinar will give many thought-provoking ideas on the latest research trends in nanotechnology, and this would immensely benefit delegates and students with theoretical knowledge on nanotechnology. I would like to congratulate Professor N. Savithramma, Principal, SVU College of Science and Webinar Organizing Secretary, Professor G. Sudarshanam, Head Department of Botany and Webinar Director, and faculty members of the Department of Botany and the others behind this webinar. I thank one and all.
Good morning. This is Professor G. Sudarshanam, Head Department of Botany and the Director of today's international webinar on role of nanotechnology in current scenario. On behalf of organizing committee, I invite all the speakers the day one, that is on 7th May. So we have 8 speakers, 4 speakers today and 4 more tomorrow. Firstly, I invite our good friend Professor Yashwant Pathak, Associate Dean, Faculty Affairs at the University of South Florida, USA. I request him to give a talk on nanotechnology applications in delivering herbal drugs and natural products. Welcome, sir.
Good morning, everyone. This is Yashwant Pathak from Tampa, Florida. I work as a professor and associate dean at University of South Florida College of Pharmacy, based in United States of America. Today I am going to give a talk on nano-delivery for herbal drugs and natural compounds for improving the effectiveness. It's a review and I'm sharing some of our research work which we have done here in the laboratories. So just want to share with you some beautiful pictures of Tampa, Florida. This is our university with a bull. Bull is our mascot for our football team, and then Tampa is known for one of the best beaches around the world. I would like to sincerely express my prostrations and humble namaskars to the Balaji, Sri Balaji of Tirupati. I have a dream to come there and visit once, at least take the darshan of Sri Balaji in my lifetime. I would like to express my sincere thanks for the invitation to share my thoughts. Special thanks to all the faculty of Department of Botany and the organizers of this conference. My special thanks to Professor Dean G. Sudarshanam, who is one of my very good friends. All students who are attending this talk, and special thanks to those sitting at the back and sleeping. Those are the realized souls who have achieved the nirvana. I will try my level best to speak in low voice not to disturb your meditation in the holy city of Tirupati. So increasing popularity of medicine is a very interesting. I have a cartoon here. A little shop on the corner was known as herbal medicine shop. Now suddenly took out all the consumers, and you will find that in last 20 years, the amount of herbal drugs and nutraceuticals which are sold in the market are almost close to the same dollar value as that of modern medicines or so-called allopathic medicine, and hundreds and thousands of books are getting published in this area, and people are now looking at herbal drugs and nutraceuticals as one of the key partners in the healthcare delivery. And it is very interesting that we all are aware of it, that most of the acute diseases were very well cured with the modern medicine, antibiotics, antibacterial. There were many different technologies have been developed, and it helped a lot. But when it came to the chronic diseases, the modern medicine did not do the justice to the chronic disease. And it appears that all over the world, as the geriatric population is growing, we are coming up and facing new and newer chronic diseases, and this is where the nutraceuticals and herbal drugs are going to play a significant role in future. And that is why there is a significant attraction within the pharmaceutical industry community as well as the academic community to look at nutraceuticals and herbal drugs differently. And this is where in last 20 years the nanotechnology has developed, and I am going to share some of our experiences about application of nanotechnology in delivering some of the herbal drugs. So overview of herbal medicine, herbs are generally defined as any form of the plant and plant products, including leaves, stems, and you are all aware of it. Most of you are from the botany department, so you must be knowing. And since ages, we have been using herbs as part of our food or part of our regular diet, and it supplements our medicine. So for years together, herbal medicines have kept the humanity growing and living, and this is where the herbal medicines have been utilized all over the world. They have been there are isolated phytochemicals which were used in prevention and treatment of various ailments such as cancer, liver disease, rheumatological disorder, asthma, allergy, and many other acute and chronic diseases. Interestingly, we all are aware that majority of the Western world medicines have been developed with a herbal lead compound, and you'll find it for most of the anti-malarials, anti-hypertensives, all of them had their lead compounds which subsequently underwent a lot of drug designing and gave some potent drugs out of those, but the lead compounds were always from the herbal source. And World Health Organization is also supporting this, because as we are dealing with 7 billion people on earth, it will be impossible. So World Health Organization has very clearly mentioned that herbal drugs can be very useful for treating the diseases in remote parts of the world, and they have some different pathways to high quality evidence. They are looking at what will be good way of utilizing herbal drugs for the healthcare delivery of the to the total humanity in the system. And there are a lot of legal frames which are developed in Europe and even in America now. They have come up with some of the legal frames. FDA has a special area where they call it Disha, and then that is what is applied for the herbal and nutraceuticals. And believe it or not, but nutraceutical market is growing significantly. And nowadays we are teaching in our pharmacy school to our student that when you talk to a patient, if he or she is taking the modern medicine, then ask immediately the next question, what kind of nutraceutical they are taking. And it is observed that those people who are above 60, almost they are consuming anywhere from 5 to 15 herbal drugs or nutraceuticals on a daily level. So there is a possibility of interactions between the nutraceuticals, herbal drugs taken by the patient as well as the modern medicine, and that is why we are educating our students on nutraceuticals and herbal drugs there. So from earth to market, herbal drugs are not regulated by FDA presently. they have to be marketed as herbal drugs, and you cannot claim any therapeutic efficacy of the herbal drug into the market. That is what the US market says. But in many other countries, they have been officially recognized as a way to treat the patient for specific disease conditions. And this is the early part. It used to be people used to use the herbs. Now, if you go to Chinese, I worked in China with Dalian Medical University, and we used to there have two parallel pharmacies. One parallel pharmacy was traditional Chinese medicine, other pharmacy was modern medicine. And in traditional Chinese medicine, they will give you a combination of several herbs. Either they will make an extract or give you and tell you how to make the extract or how to use them, and it was a combination of it. And that is where the herbal drugs in herbal form, typical plant products, was given to the patient. And nowadays, gradually, as they're changing, people are moving towards nutraceuticals, where they are using dosage forms like herbal product in capsules, herbal product tablets, and all different types of things are being utilized. And I had edited a book on handbook of nutraceuticals, and I had given a new definition for nutraceuticals in my handbook, where we mentioned that any nutraceutical product has to be manufactured under good manufacturing practices. We added the GMP there, and there has to be some analytical technique which is used to make sure that the quality of the product is maintained. That is where we added some of the new aspect to the bigger definition of the nutraceuticals in my book there, and it has been very quoted and cited by many people in their research papers. So there are guidelines for regulation. So herbal drug can be indigenous herbal medicines in cysteine, modified herbal medicines, and imported product with the herbal medicine. So there are different types of products which have been recognized by the Southeast Asia region from the WHO in 2003, and it has been used in different forms there. The traditional approach was in most of the eastern countries. You will find here there is a Dhanvantari's picture is there. This is a traditional Thai Tibetan Buddhist traditional system of medicine. We had Charaka here, and there were traditional Chinese system, Yin and Yang. So these are all different types of things which were very practiced in China, Vietnam, Korea, Cambodia. There was another group which was African traditional medicines, which were very popular in Africa. Even today you will find those plants which are used for treatment of many different diseases. Similar medicinal systems were seen and used by Maoris in New Zealand, the Australian Aboriginals, the Native Americans of America. So there were a lot of traditional approaches which were developed around the world, and those are the approaches which were keeping the humanity alive for thousands of years here. So with the new advent, nano has become a key buzzword in the scientific community, especially in the pharmacy field and drug delivery systems. So I always say nano is too big, nanoparticulate drug delivery system. And I say, when I say nano is too big, I always mention it as two parts. One is nano is too big because it has got too many applications. It is applied in almost every life of our, every aspect of our life, including your mobile phones and computers and TVs to paints. Everywhere now they are using nano, and that is why I say nano is too big. But now there is another aspect to it, is that now the scientists are working in the level of picograms. People are now looking at pico level products or pico level measurements, and that is why I say nano is too big, because now people are going towards pico. And that's why when nanotechnology, this concept was introduced, actually first time it was used by a scientist from Japan, Norio Taniguchi. He was the scientist at University of Tokyo in 1974. He used that first time. Nanotechnology is a word. Nano in the Greek, it says it is dwarf, small. But I will share with you a very interesting thing. I had worked in nanotechnology in 1987-88, and at that time when we were trying to publish our research papers as nanotechnology, the reviewers were not very comfortable. So we used the term called micronized emulsions, and that is what, or submicronized emulsions, because at that time nano was not that much popular, and reviewers were very worried about to approve that. So understanding the nano size concept, this I have taken it from my book. This is your regular football which you play, and this is your carbon nanotube, and then this is your hair follicle, RBCs, and then you have DNA, RNA, all of those things are nano. So majority of the systems which are inside our body or inside the plant body, all of them are nanoparticles, and that's why I make a statement: who is the greatest scientist of nanotechnology? And it is nothing but Mother Nature is the greatest scientist of nanotechnology. These are some of the nano sizes and shapes there. Nano fabrication, you all are aware that there are two methods. One is bottom up or top down. In pharmaceutical areas and in biological applications, it is normally bottom up. You take a very small molecule and then build the nanoparticles out of that. In case of top down, it is mostly used in lithography, and your cell phone is a top down nanoparticle system where you are creating nano channels within the metals or within different products, polymers, and this is where top down is normally used in electronics and different types of applications. Bottom up is normally used in pharmaceuticals and drug delivery systems. So nano was existing around us for millenniums, thousands of years. It is with us. Mother Nature has been creating all the. You drink milk is a nanoparticle. You eat grapefruit or you eat oranges, they are all nanoparticles. But we were not knowing much more about nanotechnology. It happened only in last 20-30 years when the analytical techniques came into the picture: laser diffraction, photon correlation spectroscopy, wide angle X-ray scattering, differential scanning calorimetry, TEM, ACM. All these technologies really helped us to understand what is nano and what are the applications of nano and how we can utilize this nanotechnology into various aspects of human life. And that is where I think nanotechnology can play a major role in delivering herbal drugs and nutraceuticals. So some of the challenges which herbal medicines face are high dose levels. I remember I was in Indonesia and I went to one of the herbal drugs and I told them that I want to find out something for my diabetes, and they gave me a packet which was like you can accommodate at the most 4 packets in one bag. And I said, hey, if I want to carry this amount of drug to United States to treat my diabetes, it will be impossible because I will have to take a plane load of material, and that is where the high dose levels are challenging. Characterization and solubility problems, formulation challenges are there. Consistency is a major challenge with herbal drug. Reproducibility, from place to place, if you put up a plant in Miami or Florida or in India or in Indonesia, the contents might be varying. And this is where the challenge comes in. I had worked with in industry on Senna pods, creating a Senna tablets as a laxative. And we used to, day in, day out, every day we'll have challenges to provide appropriate concentration of senosides in each tablet. And this is the consistency and reproducibility is a challenge. Clinical efficiency is another challenge because it depends on how you are delivering your herbal drug. Manufacturing on large scale as a source of medicine for large number of people is another challenging thing. And there is a major challenge is the disagreement between the practitioners and needs for the standardization, and finally patient compliance. These are some of the challenges which herbal medicine faces every time. And nanotechnology can really help in reducing the dose levels of the herbal medicine, providing better stability to the product, ease in formulations and characterization. It can help in better patient acceptability, and it will help in reproducibility of the therapeutic effectiveness, as well as it can provide you intellectual property. So you can get patents out of these if you use appropriate nanotechnology applications in herbal drug delivery, and that is where we should concentrate on using the nanotechnology there. So there are many herbal drugs and their efficacy in treatment of diseases. A lot of clinical trials are going on: St. John wort, ginkgo, ginger, ginseng, curcumin, echinacea, chamomile, kava. There are so many of these clinical studies are being conducted, and they are using different types of nano carriers like liposome, polymeric missile, dendrimers, polymeric nanoparticles, solid lipid nanoparticles. These are some of the things which are being used in delivering the drug. And there are a lot of common natural materials also like gelatin, albumin, alginate, collagen, chitosan. You have synthetic polymers like PLA, PLGA, PCL, PMMA, metallic nanoparticles are there like gold nanoparticles, silver nanoparticles. So these are some of the areas in ceramics, silica nanoparticles, aluminum nanoparticles, titanium nanoparticles. So all these are different ways of utilizing these nanoparticles to deliver the herbal drugs, and people are doing a lot of researches in this area to see the application. So there are many methods used for formulating, and I have mentioned liposome, polymeric missile. So these are some of the areas where they are using different types of nano drug delivery system to incorporate the herbal drugs as well as botanical products. So you have chemical structures of herbal compound. Nowadays people have characterize them very well. Most of the plants which are available, there is a chemical characterization done, so we can identify which are the active ingredients like curcumin in turmeric, lycopene in tomatoes, tetrarandrine in Stephania tetranda, then tanchinone in Saivia, militorizia, and there are so many such chemical structures are there. And nanotechnology also using different types of herbal extracts. So bigger, if you use actual nanoparticle, actual herbal drugs, it will be very tough to deliver, but then people are trying to use different kinds of supercritical extracts, and we are also working on that. And you can utilize those so that you can reduce the dose and use high strength of the product. So what we are doing is we are trying to use a platform. E-cigarettes is a platform which is for natural medicine. E-cigarettes is used for tobacco. We are trying to create nano emulsions or delivery systems which can be used for e-cigarette platform, and this can be a very interesting area and alternative application of e-cigarettes for delivering the herbal drugs. So another area which we worked was on effective delivery of curcumin in chronic diseases using nanotechnology. So this is our nano emulsion we created, which was having a nanoparticle size between 259 nanoparticles, and then it was a very stable emulsion because after 1 year the particle size moved from 259 to 314. There was not much difference in the particle size, neither in the electrical mobility nor in zeta potential. So most of this, so we could create a very stable nano emulsion of curcumin, and almost stable for, it is more, almost stable for 2 years we have done. So this is a typical scanning electron microscopy of nano emulsion where the curcumin was incorporated in the oil phase, and it is very interesting to understand the crosstalk between the insulin resistance and NLRP3 inflammasomes. So you have host-derived metabolites like cholesterol, oxy, LDL, uric acid, amyloid, peptide, ATP, ROS, reactive oxygen species, ceramides, glucose, and you have some of these chronic diseases like cardiovascular diseases, gout, diabetic kidney, and in all of these diseases it is found that NLRP3 inflammasomes concentration goes up and you build up insulin resistance, and we have shown that this curcumin can work in all these receptors, all these different types of systems, mechanisms, and can reduce the concentration of NLRP3 inflammasomes and can reduce the inflammation. And this is a very interesting work which was reported earlier, and we have shown in our research work that curcumin inhibits the reactive oxygen species mediated damage to neuronal cells, and human neuroblastoma cells SK and SH were differentiated with the retinoic acid for 15 days. Differentiated SK and SH cells were treated with 100 micromilliliters of ROS, hydrogen peroxide, and then co-treated with 250 nanometers and 500 nanometer curcumin for 25 hours. And then cells which were treated with 100 micromilliliters of ROS alone were served as vehicle for ROS. And we found that the curcumin differentiated the cells and co-treated with curcumin nano emulsion, and we found that cellular morphology indicate that curcumin co-treatment protects the neuronal cells from ROS mediated damage. So reactive oxygen species-mediated damage in the neuro cells was protected by the curcumin. So we also studied the curcumin effects on the IL-1 beta, another biomarker for inflammasome mediation, and we found that with our nano emulsions we could significantly reduce almost in place from 500 we have reduced it to 300 capsaicin 1 concentration there. So THP1 monocyte differentiated into activated macrophages and treated with ATP, and capsaicin 1 release is indicative of inflammasome activation, and curcumin treated reduced the release, capsaicin 1 release here from 500 to 300, and this is how we showed that our curcumin is very useful in inflammation created in the neuronal cells. Then we studied the effect of curcumin treatment on IL-1 beta secretion, and we showed that as compared to your control, we had a significant, almost less than 10% was there. So we showed the THP macrophages were activated with nigrisine and non-inflammasome activator. And this data suggests that curcumin treatment diminishes IL-1 beta. Almost diminishing levels were seen of IL-1 beta, which is a biomarker for the inflammasomes. So summary of our work on curcumin was curcumin treatment augments ROS-mediated neuronal cell damage. Curcumin treatment mediates reduced IL-1 beta secretion. Curcumin treatment inhibits capsaicin cleavage and secretion, and it inhibits the effects of NLRP3 inflammasome activators such as nigrisine and ATP. Then we worked with another natural product which is known as physostigmine, also known as eserin, which is a West African name for the calabar bean. And this was synthesized long back in 1935 by chemist Percy Lavon Julian. And physostigmine acts on interfering with the metabolism of acetylcholine, and it is a covalent reversible bond hydrolyzed an inhibitor of the acetylcholinesterase. It was earlier we found that in the Alzheimer's disease, the concentration of acetylcholine goes up, and that's where if you use the acetylcholinesterase, then the acetylcholine concentration can be reduced down, and this was the hypothesis. So we tried to work and develop the physostigmine nanoemulsions. So it is also used to treat myasthenia gravis, glaucoma, Alzheimer's disease, and delayed gastric emptying. And what we did was we tried to incorporate the physostigmine into oil phase of the nanoparticles, and we created nanoemulsions. These were with a particle size of around 120 nanometers, very stable nanoemulsion. We used Gaussian homogenizers to manufacture this. So our batch size used to be around 20 liters for the nanoemulsions, and very reproducible nanoemulsions we got. This is some of the release profiles which we obtained because the physostigmine was incorporated into the oil phase. It used to delay the release of the drug over the period of time. And then this was the effect of polaxamor and iron nature physostigmine release profiles we found out in the phospholipid. We used FDA approved materials, polaxamor and phospholipids and all those things for delivering these drugs. These are some of the effects of pH and degradation, stability degradation, studies of this physostigmine, and then effect of pH on the zeta potential of the physostigmine emulsion, nanoemulsion. Then we worked on, we did a lot of in vivo studies in animals, and we did show that the nanoemulsions which were orally given to the rats, the physostigmine could reach in the brains, and it was the hypothesis which we had put, and nowadays people are in recent researches they have found out that there is the limb system in brain, but in 1990s when we did this, the reviewers were not happy with we saying that now it is proven. So what we were saying that nanoemulsions which are 120, 200 nanometer particle size, they behave like chylomacrons, and chylomacrons are present in our gastrointestinal tract, and it is taken up by the limb system. So you bypass the liver metabolism, and then the limb system can take the these nanolipid globules or nanolipid liposome to the brain. And this is where our hypothesis was there, and we had some in vivo studies we reported, and there are publications in that area. Then we worked with another interesting Chinese medicine. So we tried with a Indian curcumin, we tried with a West African physostigmine, acerine, and then third one we tried was a triptolide nanoemulsion, which comes out of a Chinese herbal medicine, and it is the Chinese herb is known as Tripterigum villifordi, who known as Lei Gong Teng in China, which is widely used there. And what Chinese medicine for the treatment of autoimmune diseases, including rheumatoid arthritis, systemic lupus erythematosus, and then discoid lupus erythematosus, and pyoderma gangrenosum. So these are some of the applications of triptolide which are widely used in traditional Chinese medicine. So we wanted to see if we can build up the nano emulsion out of triptolide and see whether this can be useful for treating the chlorine induced injuries of lungs. And this is where our things are there. We were collaborating with one of the scientists from University of Louisville. We had a NIH grant, R1 grant for this. So we had studied the dose response comparison of aqueous TPT triptolide solution and TPT triptolide nanoemulsion inhibiting NFK beta activation, which is we showed that the nanoemulsions triptolide had significantly reduced the NFKB activation here. So TPT nanoemulsion inhibited the NFKB activation but appeared to be somewhat less effective than the aqueous dispersion of the formulation. So you can see that the aqueous formulation was even much lower than that. But to deliver aqueous formulation orally was very challenging. So nanoemulsion was a solution for delivering the triptolide there. Then time course of inhibition of NFKB activation by aqueous TPT and TPT nanoemulsion. So we have shown that triptolide nanoemulsion has similar effect as aqueous TPT but needs longer per incubation, and the difference in the dose response is probably due to the kinetics of the release, because the drug was slowly released in the when it was incorporated into the nanoemulsion. So nanoemulsion can be used as a good drug delivery system for triptolide and can be delivered by spray in the lungs directly. That will be an advantage over the aqueous triptolide delivery. Then we tried testing the in vivo treat chlorine exposed mice and measure the inflammation inhibition of neutrophil influx in the lungs, and we found that this was the normal neutrophil influx. This was after the treatment of nanoparticles, which has reduced less than almost close to 50%, while it was more than 150 value of that neutrophil chemoattractant in the lung lavage fluid. So inhibition of Kc neutrophil chemoattractant in lung lavage fluid, we found out that the normal control was around 1000, while when we treated with nanoemulsion, it has been less than 500 inhibition of neutrophils in lung lavage fluid. Nanoemulsions were showing a very good advantage there. So nanotechnology enhanced curcumin synopsis or ancient wisdom of East with modern medicine science. So I think the more you will use nanotechnology for herbal delivery and nutraceuticals, it will provide you much better drug delivery system for the herbal drugs, and I strongly recommend, and I am working on this area to see that more and more nanotechnology can be applied in the herbal drug delivery systems. So why nanoemulsion for nutraceuticals is a question. So nanoemulsion formulation can be a prototype to develop many more similar formulations. They are small in size. They have excellent penetration properties to ensure rapid delivery of high concentration of active ingredient to the cell membrane. Bioavailability of lipophilic active ingredient can be substantially improved by delivering the nanoemulsion. So these are some of our experiences, and I think nanoemulsions can be a very good, and we did a lot of research work on delivering herbal or natural antioxidants and antioxidant related products for anti-inflammation using nanoemulsions. So nanotechnology principles can significantly contribute to developing the herbal medicines, especially can address several challenges posed by medicine. It can also help to improve the efficacy of the products, and it will increase the acceptability of the patient as well as increase the prestige of the herbal medicines. So I want to leave you with two concepts. One is solo versus concept performance. Whenever we are working with herbal drugs or nutraceuticals, we need to understand that herbal drugs or nutraceuticals are a concept performance. It is not a solo performance. The Western medicine is more or less a solo performance. You have one active ingredient, a very potent, gives you the immediate effect, but simultaneously you see a lot of side effects. And if you have seen the advertisements of newly marketed drugs, you'll find that they write the therapeutic application for one paragraph and side effects, toxic effects, precautions, 4 pages. And this is where the solo performance is creating problems for the patient, and we have seen those problems in the recent pandemic which is going around the world in COVID treatment, and you'll see that a lot of side effects have been seen whatever drugs you have used, so-called one. So try to understand that herbal drugs are concert performance. You know, you have 400 violins, 300 trumpets, and it is a concert performance, and it should be treated like that. There is another thing which I want to bring in to your notice is that this is cricket, very popular in India, and this is baseball, very popular in America. If you compare these two games, they have a bat, they have a bat, they have a ball, they have a ball, they have a player, they have a field, they have. So if you take some parameters to characterize baseball and cricket, you might see that some of the parameters are very common. But when we come to playing, you cannot apply the rules of cricket to baseball or rules of baseball to the cricket. Same thing happens with this is American football and this is soccer ball. And same thing, you know, if you put some parameters, you'll find there are common things. There is a ball, there are players, there are two teams, there are ground, there are cheerers. But you cannot apply the rules of these, interchange the rules. Same thing I want to bring to your notice that when we deal with herbal medicines, do not try to apply the rules of modern medicine to the applied medicine. Modern medicine is a solo performance. Herbal drugs and nutraceuticals are a concept performance. And if somebody asks you a question, hey, how do you analyze it? You can tell, you know, I remember when I did my PhD long back, some 40 years back, it was colorimeter. Colorimeter was the best at that time available, and I did all my analysis using colorimeter. Today, if I do the same PhD thesis, people will reject it outright because today the technology has developed. So a day will come when you will have a HPLC which can analyze all 100 constituents of your herbal drug. And I am sure it is going to come very soon. And that is where we do not want to exchange the rules of it. Let us have separate rules for herbal drug. Let us have our own characterization for our Ayurvedic product or traditional Chinese medicine product or African traditional herbal products. You know, we need to create our own parameters to characterize these things. And this is what my request will be to all of you. I work for Taneja College of Pharmacy. This is again, we offer PharmD program, and we offer a master's in pharmaceutical nanotechnology and PhD in nanoscience and medical sciences at our college. We have different, these are some of my areas of research: nanoparticulate drug density, impact of microgravity on drug delivery systems, applications of nanotechnology in various areas including agriculture, herbal drugs and wastewater management, course coordinator for risk management and nanotechnology. I have published over 250 research papers, reviews and chapters, and edited more than 50 books now. These are very popular new books I am editing. You will see it very soon on Amazon.com, Handbook of Space Pharmaceuticals. And you know, one of my mentor told me that whenever you get a chance to brag, never be shy of bragging. So I'd like to share with you some of my books which I have edited. Nanoparticulate drug, these are all in nanotechnology. These are some new books: Emerging Technology of Nano Manufacturing and Sustainable Nanotechnology. Some 2 books which are coming very soon are Nano Carriers for Drug Targeting to Brain Tumors and Nano Carrier for Nasal Drug Delivery Systems. These are some of my books in the drug delivery systems, and I also work in the area of nutraceuticals. These are some of the books, and I edit the series on nutraceuticals for CRC praise. So anybody who is interested in contributing any book to this series, you are welcome to connect with me and I'll be very happy. So Dhanyavadalu. I try to put it in Telugu. Dhanyavad, ma salama, thank you very much. And if you have any questions, please email me because it appears that I will not be able to interact with you personally, but I appreciate that. And last but not thing, I'm wearing a beautiful Indonesian batik, which is always based on natural themes. And that's why I'm wearing this Indonesian batik, which they took it from India to Indonesia. So thank you very much. Thank you, Professor Sudarshan, for giving me this opportunity. And I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Anybody who would like to communicate with me, I have already shared in my first slide the WhatsApp number and email address to you all. Thank you. God bless you all. And my prostrations and humble namaskars to Tirupati, Sri Tirupati Balaji.
Welcome to today's webinar on nanotechnology. I request Professor Savithramma, Principal, S. University College of Sciences from Department of Botany. He is also Executive Council member of Sri Venkateswara University. I request her to deliver a talk on nanotechnology applications. Welcome, Madam.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for the opportunity given by the organizers. And I am also highly grateful to the president of International Webinar. And this is a very good opportunity of us to know the nanotechnology, the role of nanotechnology at current scenario. And as a part, the main applications of nanotechnology we are going to see today. And here, the father of nanotechnology, modern India, modern world, that is Finman. But actually in India, the nanotechnology has well aware by our ancestors, and they are using the nanotechnology in number of medicines, and they are applying to number of diseases also. But here the size of the nanoparticle, that is 10 to the power of minus 9, it's just 1 nanometer is equal to that 10 to the power of minus 9 meters. And it's because of its single part or a single particle, we can do miracles at present scenario. So that's why the nanotechnology got such an attraction from different disciplines. Mainly, any innovation leads to the society, that is helpful to the society. We can say it's a technology. And this nanotechnology is a combination of science and as well as the arts. And it's also a combination of biotechnology and engineering technology. So both the way they are using the nanotechnology in different fields, not only agriculture, in medicine, in industry, nutraceuticals, and also environment. And mainly, before we are going to applications, just we would like to go through a nutshell how these particles can be synthesized. Mainly, there are three methods. One is physical, chemical, and biological methods. But the aim of the methods is to synthesize a rapid manner and eco-friendly way, and also it should be a cost effect. So in that context, biological synthesis is one of the best one. At the same time, chemical method and as well as the physical method also using for the synthesis of different metal and the non-metal nanoparticles. Mainly, vapor phase, solution phase, and solid phase is the three phases in the process of the synthesis. And solid state synthesis mainly involves the heat treatment. So in this heat treatment, you will get crystal structures at the same time 30 nanometers size. And later, vapor synthesis. In this vapor synthesis, inert gas condensation and plasma-based synthesis, and flame-based synthesis, and spray pyrolysis synthesis. So here you can see the inert gas condensation, how the nanoparticles are synthesized from the vaporization, and the source has given both sides, and then the vapors will comes out and then cooled by the liquid nitrogen, and then we will get the particles. And the same manner, plasma process is to produce nanoparticles. Here, three different stages. One is gradual materials, and then combustion, and as well as the multi-phases. And here you can see the copper crucibles, and where water cooling process can be adapted. And in flame-based synthesis, mainly conventional flame as well as the reducing flame. So both way we can prepare. And where the spray pyrolysis process, and here the compressed nitrogen gas can be flow through the mass controller, and then we will get the precursor solution, and where we can 3 stages we will get, but the last stage is the pure nanoparticles without aggregatization. And in between we will get silver nitrate and as well as the titanium oxide, and later with what we can say, the particles without a specific stage, but whereas after pyrolysis we will get a pure beautiful nanoparticles. And in solution process of nanoparticles, mainly sol-gel process and precipitation method, and water oil microemulsions, and polyol method, and hydrothermal synthesis. So these are the 5 methods they are using. In sol-gel method, mainly the precursors dissolved in the solution, and where 3 types we can get. One is film coating, and another one is powder method, and another one is jelly way. And another precipitation method, where you will get nucleation, and these homogeneous solution get converted into nucleation, and then coagulation and condensation to process, and after that the growth of the nanoparticles can be increased, and if the size is increasing, and then agglomeration is also is a problem here. And then water oil microemulsions, it's called reverse mycelia method, and here we are using salts of the reducing agent, and you can see the hydrophilic and then hydrophobic nature of the particles in the aqueous solution they will arranged. And then polyol method will get 2 or 3 steps, where the mixture can be suspended in the different solutions, and then with high temperature 180 to 200 degrees they reducing nucleation and then precipitate the nanoparticles. But here you will get the different shapes of the particles, whether it's a cubic or pyramid or rod, like that. The hydrothermal synthesis, where we will get alkali solution and metal salt solutions, and both they can mix at a particular point, and through reactor it will process, and then cooler, after cooling, then we can metal oxide we will get, and after drying we will get the final product. In biological synthesis, we are synthesizing the nanoparticles from the different metals, zinc, copper, silver, and then gold. Not only the metals and also the minerals, calcium, magnesium, iron, like that. And we are using different plants. In our laboratory, we tested almost more than 25 plants with different parts, whether it's a root or a stem bark or a leaf or a flower, fruit, whatnot. Almost all plant parts are is suitable for synthesis. But apart from this, based on the requirement, for example, we want the medical purpose, it's better to use bark. And other agriculture products, if you want to synthesize, you can use leaves. So based on the requirement, you can select any part of the plant. So these are the different plant dicards we have used. And here what we are using the metal and also plant extract, and where the secondary metabolites can be activate the synthesis of the metal nanoparticles, and then after get solution, I mean centrifugation with adjusting pH, and we will get the particles. So it indicates the color change, that synthesis of the particles. Not only dicots, even monocots also we have tried, and then we got very good results. And before synthesis of the particles and after synthesis of the particles, you can see here, and we can determine not only the physical observation and also through UV light. And here iron oxide nanoparticle for agriculture purpose we have synthesized, and calcium nanoparticles and zinc oxide nanoparticles. And these are the different instruments that UV and FTIR spectroscopy for identification and also analysis of the formation of the particles or any metals or unused metals. We can identify it through XRT and atomic force microscope, and we can 3D structure we will get, and scanning electron microscopes also we will get the size and shape of the particles, and then TEM. Through this we can use the resolution and magnification better than AFM and then SEM. And here you can see the nanoparticles, how the size, that is different size from 19 to 20, and meanwhile here the graph represents the what are the other metals or that is minerals which are found along with the nanoparticles. And here you can see the even the just like a balls, very what we can say beautiful particles you can get based on the pH. If you increasing and then decreasing the pH, it's also affect the size of the particles and also shape of the particles. And 3D structure, and here you can see the AFM method. And the applications, if you come to the applications, mainly the smart agriculture, nano fertilizers, nano pesticides, and nano weedicides, nano bioremediation materials, nano insecticides, and these are all used by the encapsulation of the nano micronutrients. In agriculture, of course, it's required very minute quantities, because in chemical fertilizers we are getting pollution, not only the soil and as well as the water pollution, and excess of fertilizers are accumulated on the soil leads to the salinity. So hence the nanoparticles are advantage. It's not only the less amount, and it reaches directly to the required parts. And mainly not only the encapsulated nanomaterials and coated with protective film so that it can release slowly and whenever it's necessary, whether in a vegetative period or reproductive period. So that is we can determine, and then we can frame, that is coat with thick and thin. So based on that it will release the nanoparticles. And apart from these plant growth regulators also using now, and it's efficiently delivered for required thing. And you can see here how these nanoparticles can enter into the plant, because generally ions can through exchange process only they can enter, but whereas these nanoparticles, because of its small size, they can directly enter through the cells or even tissue, even endosperm, I mean epidermis and endodermis, and then through xylem and then phloem. So they directly both passive and as well as the active way, they can enter into the xylem cells and then reaches the topmost one. And you can see these anatomical studies that where accumulation of these nanoparticles, that green color indicates that how the particles are entered into the cell walls, and even in the hydroponics they are using exclusively to minimize the nutrients. and particles can enter through actively, and just they can diffuse the cell walls, and then they enter into the cell and accumulated in the vacuoles. Whenever the necessary, they can released. And here in the smart agriculture, their localization and then releasing is the one of the most important. So that's why the people are very much interested to using this nanotechnology and as well as the nano fertilizers. And not only in the agriculture field and also in the laboratory, in tissue culture, the growth, mainly there is a problem in tissue culture where the secondary metabolites are affecting the growth of the plantlets, and here the nanoparticles are reducing that secondary metabolites effect, and it will help the growth of the callus and as well as the plant. And here you can compare the normal and as well as the nanoparticle used plantlets. And not only that, the seedling growth are also helpful, and because they are directly entered, and then they increase the germination percentage also. So not only germinating percentage and also growth of the seedlings can be helpful. And coming to the food industry, and here we can see the different food products in the nutrition delivery, and then minerals, vitamins fortification, water purification, and so on. The particles are extensively using, and even in the livestock, they are excellently preparing with the less fat in the milk, and so that they can use to preparation of different milk products, and also for especially the people who doesn't want the fat. And mainly nano food fortification, they are using these nano sheets so that they can pack the food with these nano sheets. If food is spoiled, then it indicates the growth of the bacteria, so automatically the color change can observed in this package, so it indicates that food is spoiled. So it will be helpful, especially the food is transport to the army people, and also the food storage, and even the covering of the fruits by dipping nano solutions, so they can sustain for a long time. And in the medical field, the nanoparticles are using a number of methods and also the number of names, and what we are calling as nano devices, and mainly the dendromers, nanotubes, quantum dots, nanoshells, fullerences, nanowires, nanocapsules, and nanofibers, nanoproducts, and nanostructures material. So excellent one we can see here in mainly in medical research. So mainly basic research and molecular biology, even genetics and proteomics, and then system biology, and drug delivery, and then the smart nanoparticles are nanorobots, in vitro diagnosis, and cancer treatment, heart problems, and even neurological problems which related to the brain. That is translational research, what they are calling. And even in the computer, nano imaging, nano sensing, and nano manipulation and computational tools. And nanotechnology here, between 1 nanometers to 100 nanometers, they are using in the surgical biology and even surgical instruments. And combination of this both, they developed different devices, and they are excellently using especially the nano arrays, and also in the pharmaceutical industry, and mainly drug delivery, and as well as the reaching the targets within time. So that is the main advantage in these nanoparticles. And even it is a less than virus, then they can react with organelles, proteins, DNA, and also in drug delivery and chemotherapy and antimicrobial wound dressing and nanocrystallines. Almost all they are using 150 pathogens. They are treating with these nano devices. And the diabetes mellitus and respiratory disorders and ophthalmic disorders, AIDS, and also the hemopathic nanomedicines, especially in the what we can say the blood uh, uh, cancers, and even homeopathy also. Already our Indian scientists, they are identified long back as a homeopathic medicines, these nanoparticles, but now we are observing with real facts. Even anti-cancer activity, the nanoparticles are how they are working with this identification of the tumor region and also treating the tumor cells. So you can see the temperature variations, they identify the tumor cells because the tumor cells, they have high temperature and compare with the normal tissue. So immediately to this thermal variation, they will catch the particular tissue and then they can enter both actively and as well as the passive way and then target the cancer tissue, and then they release the medicine and automatically without affecting the normal cells, they directly attack the cancer cells. And dendromeres is an excellent work we are using at present. And these dendromeres, they will encapsulate the medicine and they released. When the dendromere enter into the bacterial cell, just like a bomb blasting, it will release the medicine. So such a way the bacteria may be killed, and different levels the nanoparticles can carry it at cytotoxic level, tissue targeting, cellular targeting, molecular targeting, and cell, both they release the medicine. And nanorobots are also key role in the curing different diseases, and they directly repair the cells. For example, you can see blood leukemia. They are repairing the blood cells and to reduce the disease. They identify the multiplication of the blood cells and then they will reduce that one. And not only that, even in the bacteria also, they can fight and release the medicines, and even the suturing the parts where the blood cells and as well as the other nerve system and nerve cells also. And they will repair at DNA levels. And you can see the nanofibers, and these nanofibers they are using in medical field excellently to suturing the organs and as well as the skin and also the soft tissue and as well as the hard tissue, even bones and then muscles. And these nanomaterials, mainly the quantum dots with absorbing the different lights, and at the same time by emitting different lights, they will recognize the pathogenic spot and then they release the light so that the drug can be directly pumped or sent to that target. And advantages of nanotechnology is already we have discussed. It's only less medicines it required and then easily targeting and without affecting the other tissue, normal tissue. And mainly even in the cardiac arrest and then the nanotubes they are sending, and even radiotherapy we will get normal tissue are affected, whereas this nanotechnology without affecting the normal tissue, there are number of cancer cells or cancer is curing. And even the nano drugs are used for antimicrobial activity, and the different stages, that is the vaccine and medical devices, drug deliveries, and quorum sensing inhibitors, and even the microbes, whether it's a fungal or bacterial, they are arrest the growth, whether it's a positive bacteria or negative bacteria, they will identify, and then they can directly invade the pathogens. And the silver powders at present we are using extensively for the wounding and other bandaging purposes. And here you can see the nanotechnology, you can repair the cells and even in the nucleus and even suturing the DNA. And in computers or industries, the nanochips, it's one of the evolutionary change that the nanochips are using extensively in the computers, and even just like a TV screen, rolling up TVs, and then stress in building vehicles, and then preparation of microscope devices like clocks, calculators, computers, and also in the lightweight resistant fabrics, mainly the dresses were using by the astronauts, and where this nanotechnology they producing the nano sensors so that they can adjust the entire body system with the required environments. And it's highly useful in aerospace programs. You can see the nanochips, and industrially the nanotechnology is numerous potential applications, and mainly the novel functions, that is easy to clean, the any scratch resistance. Even the mirrors are also they can repellent, they can prepare the repellent of dust and then water. They can clean all this dust from the mirrors. And even in the modern textiles, they are wrinkles resistant and strain repellents, and midterm cloths will become smart clothing, and then wearable electronics. Now we need not wash any our dresses just because of this nanotechnology. Through using this, we are preparing smart dresses. And nanomaterials are variety in terms, many of which people do not even realize that the containing these particles. So we don't know whether the nanotechnology is used or not. Even car bumpers and made lighters and sunscreens with more radiation resistant. Even cell phones screens are lighter weight. So like that, there are so many advantages in industrial, what we can say, evolution. And in application construction of the material, because we know very well that is carbon is the strongest one, just like a diamond, where they are preparing pure carbon nanoparticles and then nanotubes that are highly strong, and then they are preparing military goods and nano machines, nano wires, nano rods, and few layers of graphenes, and even synthetic bones and nano cosmetics. And you can see the nano robots are using in the vehicles, and so that they release the stress and then they maintain the smoothness of the vehicle. And then carbon nanotubes, and we can call as pillars, and then here oil absorption, and also the carbon nanotubes composites high strength and then high electrical conductivity and high thermal conductivity also. And nanowires we can use at the molecular level and DNA level, and it's also used in the racetrack memory, and even nerve systems they can use. And already I mentioned these nanotubes, and they can they used in mainly heart attacks, and at the same time in the building of the construction of the buildings. So they are opening the blood vessels, and then such a strong way they won't allow the accumulation of the fat in the blood vessels. And amorphous ribbons, such as strongest nano tapes, are available in both industrial and packing material, and even agriculture and food technology and other things. And here you can see the multi-walled carbon nanotubes, and they can prepare the sheet, and so that the electromagnetic sound transducers, which is highly important nowadays. And these photovoltaic devices, that is the solar cells and even biology biosensor and light emitting LDs, and then quantum computation and flat panel displays, memory elements, and then photo detectors and also lasers. So here biosensors, mainly the bioreceptors, they can used for DNA level, and then they can transduce through electrochemicals, and then they will amplify, and then they will transform the data. And again, coming to the environmental implications, they are preparing nanofilters by filtering the water and as well as the air also. And they can use as a semiconductor, metallic and non-metallic nanoparticles, and then alloy nanoparticles are highly strong when compared with the common nanoparticles, and they are self-cleaning windows. In future, we need not clean our house walls or windows, and they themselves will clean. Just cleaning means repellent, and even 50 nanometers thick titanium oxide for water and dust repellents. So they absorb or reflect light and then UV light, and then carbon nanostructures and cage strip and lighter like diamond and conduct electricity. And environmental pollution through which we can monitor and then cleaning, and through nanomembranes are there for water purification and desalinization and anti-fouling and anti-parasitic actions. And thank you one and all for giving this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, madam, for explaining us about nanotechnology application, various industry, drug delivery, agriculture, and various aspects, many more like that. Thank you very much for giving a nice talk. Thanks once again. Thank you. Bye. Next speaker, Professor Ching Hock from Universiti Malaysia, Kelantan, Malaysia. Hello, Hock. I request you to give a presentation on prospects of nanotechnology in improving fertilizer use efficiency in Malaysia. Welcome you, sir.
Greetings and good morning to the honorable organizers, speakers and participants of the international webinar on the role of nanotechnology in the current scenario. So before I begin with today's talk, please allow me to thank the organizer, St. Lawrence Institute Webcasting Center, Department of Botany, Sri Venkateswara University, India, for giving me an opportunity to have a talk in today's international webinar on the role of nanotechnology in the current situation. So the topic of my today's talk is the prospect of nanotechnology in improving the fertilizer use efficiency in Malaysia, a new perspective from the conventional approach to nanotechnology. So next, this is the outline of my today's talk. So first and foremost, I'm going to give you an introduction and the background on today's world population and the food security crisis issue. After that, I'm going to highlight on the fertilizer demand based on the food security and the food demand issue in the world. So next, I'm going to give you a definition on what is the meaning of fertilizer use efficiency, and I'm going to highlight on what are the problems and factors that affect the fertilizer use efficiency in the agriculture sector. So after that, I'm going to highlight on a series of transition in the development of technologies in order to improve the fertilizer use efficiency in the agricultural sector. So next, I'm going to talk about the main topic of today's talk, which is the nanotechnology, and I'm going to also give you a series of proofs of the promising results provided by the nanotechnology in improving the fertilizer use efficiency in the agricultural sector. So after that, I'm going to highlight a few problems and questions to be pondered about nanotechnology in improving the nutrient use efficiency in the agriculture field. So after that, I'm going to summarize the whole topic of today's talk, and I'm giving you a final conclusion of today's talk. Alright, let's begin with the introduction part. According to the United Nations, the global population of 6.7 billion people is expected to reach 9.2 billion people by the year 2050. So in this slide, you can see that by the year 2100, India, China, and Africa are going to be the top 3 countries having the highest population in the world. So in this slide, we also can see that there's an increase in the population in Malaysia too. According to the Department of Statistics Malaysia, there's an increase of the population in Malaysia from 29.4 million people in the year 2019 to 29.7 million people in the year 2020. So the food production will have to increase by double in 30 years in order to help solve what was cited as the current food crisis issue. Currently, one of the most important challenges to achieve the food security is the intensification of global food productions, as we need to increase the food production by 70% in order to accommodate 9.2 billion people in the year 2050. So as the global population continues to grow, agricultural production must also keep pace with it. So the global fertilizer demand has seen a good growth since the year 2000. The world fertilizer demand in the year 2000 was at about 140 million metric tons. And in this slide, we also can see that there's a significant increase in the demand of fertilizer in the US. Next, same goes to India. We also can see a significant increase in demand of fertilizer in India. So the commercial fertilizer is responsible for approximately 40 to 68% of the world's food production. And our responsibility is to develop and employ management practices that use fertilizer effectively and efficiently. So in the year 2018, fertilizer consumption in Malaysia was approximately 2,106.5 kilograms per hectare. And the fertilizer consumption of Malaysia increased from 175 kilograms per hectare in the year 1969 to 2,106.5 kilograms per hectare in 2018, growing at an average annual rate of 6.82%. So this has indicated that there's a significant increase on the fertilizer demand in Malaysia every year. So the FAO estimates that 37 countries are facing a food crisis issues, and this could be due to the increased demand of the food in developing nations, high oil prices, high fertilizer prices, low global cereal stocks, and some market speculations. Now, the food security is one of the great challenges facing humanity nowadays. Researchers and policymakers have identified a few approaches such as better rainfed agriculture and irrigation management, genetic engineering for producing high-yield crops, precision agriculture, drought-tolerant crops, and several other factors required to develop a new agricultural approaches as critical long-term strategies to feed the world. However, these policymakers and researchers say very little about the role of fertilizer in this scenario. So many believe that plant biotechnology is the whole key to the producing more food in the world. And the genetics and biotech industries have assured us they can deliver an increased yield, promising leaves in a genetic yield potential of 3 to 4% per year. And also the world's largest seed company, Monsanto, also said that they can develop new variety of the corn, soybean, and cotton that will yield twice as much as grain and fiber per acre while using around 2/3 of the water. So these kinds of technology advances will be required if we hope to feed the world's hungry. However, history suggests that genetic advances alone may not be able to solve the world's food shortage or food crisis issues. After highlighting the food crisis issue, we can see that fertilizer also plays an important role in helping to solve the food crisis issue. This is because most of the food comes from plants and animals, and these plants also need to be fed by fertilizers in order for them to grow. However, not all soils in the world are able to provide sufficient nutrients to the plants, and this is where the fertilizer will come in to solve the problem by providing the major nutrients required for the plants. So basically, there are 17 essential nutrients required for plant growth. Besides carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, plant nutrients can be divided into two major groups, macronutrients and micronutrients. Macronutrients such as nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, calcium, magnesium, and sulfur are required by the plants in a very big quantity, whereas the micronutrients like boron, chlorine, copper, iron, manganese, zinc, and nickel, they are all required by the plants in a very small quantity. So the fertilizer comes in different forms such as mineral and organic, which is in the natural form, and this fertilizer can also be produced industrially to become synthetic organic and inorganic. People might be asking how to measure the efficacy of the fertilizer being applied. which able to provide the maximum uptake to the plants and the maximum use. So the answer is, in order to measure that, fertilizer use efficiency is the measurement for us to measure the ability of the crops to take up all the nutrients and utilize the applied fertilizer for maximum yield. So in the normal season, farmers usually will only yield approximately 30 to 40% of the fertilizer use efficiency. It is very impossible for them to reach 100% of the fertilizer. There are several problems and factors that affect the fertilizer use efficiency. The first one is the soil. There are many different types of soil available throughout the countries in the world, and because of these differences, different types of soil will have different in terms of the physical, chemical, and biological properties. And because of that, it will affect the way how they retain the nutrients in the soil and making them available to the plants. So this is where it will affect the fertilizer use efficiency. Next, some countries have high precipitation rate, in which could pose a high risk on the rate of fertilizer being washed away from the soil by rainwater. So sometimes human errors such as the wrong application technique by the farmers and also the wrong timing of fertilizer application or wrong quantity could also affect the ability of the nutrients to the plants, and causes like excess application of fertilizers will pose the risk of nutrient leaching and thus reduce the fertilizer use efficiency. So as I mentioned earlier, different types of soil will have different properties, and depending on the properties, some soil, especially those acidic soil, will contain a lot of these aluminum and iron ions, whereby they can cause the fixation of certain nutrients in the soil, which makes them unavailable for the plant uptake and thus reduce the fertilizer use efficiency. In addition, the forms and types of fertilizers also affect the ability of the fertilizer to provide nutrients in a fast way or in a slow way, and sometimes they can also easily lost by volatilization and thus causing a reduction in the fertilizer use efficiency. This slide shows the volatilization of ammonium from applied nitrogen fertilizers, which creates a huge drawback to agricultural sectors, especially surface applied urea fertilizer, where its efficacy constantly reduces. So upon application, this urea will hydrolyze in the water, and the urease will trigger the ammonia loss. So the conversion of ammonia to ammonium ion speeds up during the hydrolysis process. So the ammonium volatilization causes poor nitrogen use efficiency by the agricultural crops and simultaneously increases the air pollution. Not only that, in order to overcome the nitrogen loss increases the agricultural crop nitrogen use, farmers tend to apply excessive nitrogen, which creates environmental problem, and at the same time it is very costly, because when you apply excess of these nitrogen fertilizers, some of these fertilizers will be leached away into the underground water bodies, because not all 100% of the applied fertilizer will be absorbed completely by the plants. So when these nutrients leach into the water bodies, and these nutrients tend to accumulate in the water bodies in the long term, especially nitrogen and phosphorus, then it will trigger the environmental problems such as eutrophication, which is the algae bloom. So once the bloom of the algae happens, it will inhibit the penetration of the sunlight and oxygen into the water bodies and thus affect the aquatic organisms in the water. So next, we can see that this is another problem in the soil which causes leaching, because the potassium in the soil itself is highly mobile, which means that they can move a lot. So let's say if you have an inappropriate physical properties of the soil, then it might also affect the speed of the moving of this potassium ion. So when this happens, then if you apply too much of this fertilizer and you didn't amend or repair the soil based on this condition, then it will pose a high risk of this potassium leaching into the underground and leach away. So thus it will reduce the fertilizer use efficiency of your fertilizer. So next, this is another problem which happens in Malaysia with the fixation of phosphorus. Now, in Malaysia, most of our soils are acidic in condition. So once the soil is acidic, aluminium and iron always present in a very large quantity. So this aluminium and iron, they are positively charged. So when we apply this phosphate fertilizer, P fertilizers, this P phosphate, they are negatively charged. So because of the large quantity of these aluminum and iron ions, which are positively charged, they have a very great affinity towards the negatively charged phosphate ions. So once they bind together, they will form a solid insoluble compound. So this solid insoluble compound will not be available for plant absorption and uptake. So thus, this will reduce the fertilizer use efficiency of your phosphate fertilizer. So after realizing the problem and factors that reduce the fertilizer use efficiency, in this slide we can see there's a transition in the development of technologies to improve the fertilizer use efficiency, starting from the very old-fashioned way, regular application of fertilizer, to today's famous technology called nanotechnology, which is the core topic of today's talk. So in the olden days, farmers tend to apply fertilizers regularly and in large quantity in order to saturate the nutrients in the soil to boost the crop yield. However, this approach is not only costly but does not guarantee high fertilizer use efficiency. It also creates a lot of this environmental problem. This is because excess application of fertilizer will not guarantee 100% of the absorption by the plants, but most of them will be leached away through underground into the water bodies, and some will be washed away by the rainwater. So once the water bodies accumulate these nutrients, especially nitrogen and phosphorus in the long term, it will cause eutrophication problem, which is the algae bloom. So the bloom of this algae on the surface of water will reduce the penetration of sunlight and oxygen into the water and thus affect the survival of the aquatic organisms. After that, researchers and scientists realized that there is a positive correlation between the soil pH and the soil available nutrients. So this is where the timing approach takes place in order to raise the soil pH from acidic to near neutral to enhance the ability of the soil nutrients. However, some farmers have a misconception and they tend to overlime the soil without testing the soil pH. To the extent the soil pH rises to alkaline state. So once the soil pH becomes alkaline, it creates another adverse reaction. So the overliming causes a lot of these calcium ions to be present in the soil. So these positive charged calcium ions will bind the negative charged phosphate ions from the applied phosphate fertilizer to become a solid compound and not available to the plant uptake. Thus, it reduces the fertilizer use efficiency. So this mechanism is similar to that of this aluminum and iron in the acidic soil. Oil palm has been introduced to Malaysia in the early days, and the planted area started to grow and increase since 1960s. So the crop has brought much revenues to the country. Besides oil palm, Malaysia also planted a lot of this sago, pineapple, padi. However, these crops create serious agricultural waste problem because not all parts of the plants are consumable. So the problem has become more and more serious to the extent causing pest and disease infestation. So in most cases, these wasted plant parts such as rice straw, rice husks, pineapple leaves, empty fruit bunches, sago baguettes were being burned on the agricultural site straight away because they are the fastest and easiest way to overcome the waste problem. However, they are not environmental friendly because it can cause a very serious air pollution problem. So some of these yield being harvested also subjected to the industrial processing. So this industrial process also created a lot of this byproduct waste such as decanted cake and palm kernel from the oil palm. So researchers have been carried out to look into how to overcome this waste problem in a sustainable and environmental friendly way. So now I'm going to share with you some of our research studies by converting the pineapple leaves waste into compost. Well, the term compost might sound a bit very old-fashioned and nothing new in the agriculture field, but this perception is not always true. This is because most of the time people only look at the function of the compost itself in providing the nutrients to the soil. So in this case, we are using the compost to serve as an organic amendment to amend it with the chemical fertilizers and to amend the soil condition in terms of physical, chemical, and biological properties. So in doing so, we are taking advantage on the compost surface area because once the compost has reached maturation stage, the mature composted compost will produce a very large surface area full of negatively charged. So this large surface area is similar to that of these nanotechnology fertilizers. So this surface area, which is very huge, very large, and full of negative charges, they can improve the oxidation of these nutrients on its surface and thus reduce the possibility of this leaching and loss by volatilization, so they can retain and improve the cation exchange capacity. So by doing so, by applying this into another biological approach, the term biological agriculture comes in. So same goes to the biochar. Biochar itself also comes from charcoal, and the charcoal is also a very old-fashioned thing. But when we use it and apply it in the biological system, like what I mentioned just now, then it has become a biological amendment. So this is where the biochar, the name biochar comes in. So in this case, a laboratory skill incubation study was carried out to assess the effects of amending the organic amendment with nitrogen and phosphate fertilizers in reducing the phosphorus fixation problem and ammonium polarization problem. So at the end of the study, soil with the treatment of organic amendments T2, T3 and T4 produce more soil absorbability compared to T1, which is the chemical fertilizer alone. So we also can see that treatments with organic amendments significantly reduce the ammonia loss compared to T1. So this has indirectly improved the fertilizer use efficiency by providing the retention of the nutrients in the soil for longer period to allow absorption by the plants. At the same time, the large surface area of these organic amendments such as compost and biochar was able to chelate these ammonium ions and also the aluminium and iron ions, which cause the fixation on the phosphate fertilizer. So this surface area with a large quantity of negative charge, they have a greatest affinity towards the aluminium and iron ions. Thus, we can chelate them instead of this letting the aluminium and iron to go and bind this phosphate fertilizer. So this phosphate fertilizer will then become more freely available for the plant uptake. So after that, the same approach was tested in the field trial by using the maize crop as a test crop, and the maize produced 2 and 3 crops per plant under treatment applied with the organic amendment. So and at the end of the trial, plant tissues analysis also showed that there is a significant increase in the nutrient uptake, and this concludes a significant improvement in the fertilizer use efficiency. After that, we did testing in the paddy crop too. In the experimental plot, similar observation can be observed where the paddy applied with the organic amendments produced higher yield compared to chemical fertilizers alone. So the trial was further tested in the farmer's field, and again, same observation was observed, and it tends to speed up the maturing stage of the paddy. So in this slide, you can see there's a difference between the chemical fertilizer alone and the one on the right hand side, which is the one applied with the organic amendments. So it tends to speed up the maturing stage of the paddy. And again, the graph has shown an improvement in the nutrient recovery in the soil, which in terms indicates there's a positive improvement in the fertilizer use efficiency. So the time passes, more innovation have been carried out in order to further improve the fertilizer use efficiency. Innovations like coating the chemical fertilizer has shown to further improve the nitrogen use efficiency. So as you can see in the table, those coated urea fertilizers produce higher nitrogen uptake compared to the urea without any coating. And in terms of nutrient use efficiency, the coated urea produces a higher and better efficacy. So after that, more advanced innovations comes in, such as precision farming, Internet of Things IoT, to further improve the precision of the fertilizer application. So in Malaysia, some plantations such as oil palm and paddy field has adopted the use of drone to apply the fertilizers. But however, there is still a very limited research data to compare its efficiency in enhancing the fertilizer use efficiency. So next, we move to today's modern technology called nanotechnology, which is also the core topic of today's talk. So the recent advancement in the fabrication of nanomaterials of different sizes and shapes have yielded their wide array of application in medicine, environmental science, agriculture, and food processing. So throughout this history, agriculture always benefited from these innovations. So nanotechnology is the revolutionary technology where the particle size ranges between 1 and 100 nanometer, at least in one dimension. So due to their high surface area and high reactivity, better penetration into the cell, these can activate plants and microbial activates, resulting in more nutrient use efficiency. So the nanotechnology has been introduced in the series of agricultural field for crop improvement, crop protection, precision farming, stress tolerance, soil enhancement, and crop growth. So what makes the nanotechnology enabled fertilizer so special in improving the fertilizer use efficiency compared to the other approaches? Well, from the perspective of surface area, The nano fertilizers possess a small particle size which causes increased surface area. So this increased surface area raises the nano fertilizer's reactivity with other compounds and thereby increases the nutrient use efficiency and nutrient uptake. On the other hand, in terms of the solubility, nano fertilizer with the solvents as water possesses increase the solubility. So the excessive solubility of nano fertilizers increase the nutrient bioavailability in the soil by solubilizing and spreading of insoluble nutrients in the soil, and they are also very less dependent on the irrigation system. Next, in terms of the particle size, nano fertilizer have a particle size of much less than 100 nanometer. So due to the decreased particle size in the nano fertilizers, diffuses into the plants and increase the uptake of the nutrients, and thus it can help to improve the fertilizer use efficiency. Now, in the aspect of encapsulation of nano fertilizer, the encapsulated nano fertilizer increases the available and nutrient uptake by the plants. So zeolite-based encapsulated nano fertilizers enhance the ability of the zinc and nitrogen to prevent from denitrification, volatilization, and leaching of nutrients in the soil. And lastly, in terms of the nutrient uptake efficiency, nano fertilizer has increased uptake efficacy and limited the leaching loss of applied fertilizer because they control the release of the fertilizers bit by bit according to the plant needs. So this can reduce the risk of leaching and also runoff by the surface area. So next, I'm going to share with you some of the latest proofs of nanotechnology in improving the fertilizer use efficiency. So in the next take a study by the Herbal et al. 2016, application of the nanoparticles such as zeolite was able to reduce the nitrogen loss from the fertilizer. So in the diagram, we can see the beehive structure of the zeolite itself, which increased the surface area that shielded the ammonium ions, especially the positively charged ions, from allowing to be lost by volatilization. So this is very suitable applied in the Malaysian soil, especially the acidic soil, whereby the zeolite itself also has a pH of near to neutral. So when they raise the pH of the neutral, it tends to enhance the availability of the soil nutrients, and also due to its surface area of this beehive structure, it helps to increase the surface area and thus capture all these ammonium ions and prevent it to loss by volatilization. So thus it will improve the fertilizer use efficiency in this aspect. So in the next study by Nail et al. 2010, the urea fertilizer treated with hydroxy apatite nanoparticles was able to release 12 times more urea compared to the pure urea to be absorbed by the plants and increase the fertilizer use efficiency. So again, once it is treated with these hydroxy apatite nanoparticles, it will release the nutrients slowly according to the plant. So once they release more slowly according to the plant needs, then when we count back, the release will be much higher compared to the one provided by the urea without any coating with the nanoparticles. Because the pure urea without any coating with the nanoparticles tend to release the nutrients very fast, and because they release the nutrients very fast, thus most of the nutrients will be lost by volatilization process. So on the other hand, the pea fertilizer loaded from the surface modified zeolite also has a higher accessible period of constant percolation. Yet again, this approach is very suitable in Malaysia acidic soil because once we release the phosphate ions slowly from the surface modified zeolite, then it can reduce the chances of it being fixed by these aluminium and iron ions, which are positive charged. And again, once it reduces the fixation of the P, then it will enhance the availability of the nutrients for the plant absorption and thus improve significantly the fertilizer use efficiency of phosphate fertilizer. So next, in the study by Sabah et al. 2014, the application of nanocalcite with the nano silicon oxide, magnesium oxide, and the iron oxide not only improve the uptake of calcium, magnesium, and iron, but also enhance the uptake of the phosphorus and micronutrients zinc and manganese, which directly improve the fertilizer use efficiency. Because in this case, once you improve the uptake of the nutrients into the plant can use it to produce more yield. So in this term, it will improve the fertilizer use efficiency. So in the next study by Liu et al. 2009, the application of carbon nanoparticles together with the fertilizer improved the grain yield and fertilizer use efficiency significantly. And again, similar observation was observed in the study by Kale et al. 2016, showing the application of zinc nanoparticles together with the fertilizer not only improved the fertilizer use efficiency, but also improved the crop productivity. And yet again, this one we can see that once they are applied into the soil, they can release it slowly, making the nutrients always available for plant uptake for maximum absorption. So once the plant can absorb maximally, then they can produce more yield, and this will improve the fertilizer use efficiency in this situation. After reviewing all the positive findings and reportings from the application of nanotechnology in improving the fertilizer use efficiency, there is one question need to ponder about. So the question is, does the nanotechnology application will pose a risk to the soil health or even human health? Now, so far what we can see is all the researchers have reported a positive effect of the application of nanotechnology in improving the soil nutrients availability. They also improve the nutrients uptake by the plants and also improve the yield of the plant. And for example, like the plant uptake of this nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium and other nutrients compared to the commercial fertilizer without any nano application seems to be unproblematic, and they seem to be very promising. However, what is unproblematic at the macro scale might be problematic in the nano scale. Because why I'm saying this? Because currently there's a very limited study that would enable the risk assessment on these nanoparticles even in the research and development phase of the products. And there's a very limited study has been identified that will allow the identification of a point of departure for risk assessment. So what we can see here is more work need to determine the impacts of these nanoparticles on the soil health and plant uptakes before any fine-tuning begins. Furthermore, the method of this application of nanotechnology-enabled fertilizer will mediate the risk to farm worker health and inform the design of protective equipment to mitigate those risks. For example, it seems unlikely that nanotechnology-enabled fertilizer could be broadcast or even side-dressed without farm worker inhalation of nanoparticles not bound in the fertilizers. So airborne fertilizers nanoparticles could put the farmer at risk of damage to the lungs or maybe other organs. So my point of view is researchers have to assess and improve the suited evaluation techniques to investigate the impact of these nanoparticles and nano-based fertilizers on the biotic and also the abiotic factors of ecosystems. So among the various issues, the accumulation of these nanomaterials in the soil would possibly be the necessary issues to look into. So as a summary, the application of nanotechnology is able to improve the fertilizer use efficiency. As we all know, the enhancing nutrient use efficiency is a commendable goal and ultimate trial handled by the agricultural fertilizer industry in the worldwide. So the nano-based fertilizer consists of a higher surface area because of lesser in the size of nanoparticle, and they have high reactivity solubility in the water, which is less dependent on the irrigation. And the nanotechnology enables the nutrient to be encapsulated inside the nanoporous particle, whereby these fertilizers are able to release the nutrient in a slowly manner to the crops and increase the fertilizer use efficiency. So besides, it also helps to overcome the problem faced by the problematic soils found in Malaysia that reduce the fertilizer use efficiency. So in the conventional fertilizer, the fertilizer use efficiency is always very low, which is around 30 to 40%. So this mud delivery systems of nanotechnology approach will enhance the nutrient ability and the use efficiency. So the fertilizer used effectively in 10 to 25% for phosphorus, but with the nano fertilizers rising as a substitute for traditional fertilizers, the build-up of nutrient in the soil and thereby eutrophication and the drinking water impurity problem may additionally be eliminated. So in fact, this nanotechnology has opened up new opportunities to enhance the fertilizer use efficiency and limit charges of environmental protection. In conclusion, nanotechnology-based fertilizers has seemed to provide a very promising finding and effects in improving the fertilizer use efficiency. And this approach has a very good prospect in Malaysia, especially when in Malaysia we have those 4 major problematic soils, whereby the application of this nanotechnology could help to improve the fertilizer use efficiency when the fertilizers are applied in these 4 major problematic soils in Malaysia. And as a recommendation, the risk assessment, especially of the application of nanoparticles in the soil health and human health, should also be highlighted and look into this problem. Thank you so much for your attention and your time. So I hope to see you again next time. As an acknowledgement, I would like to thank the organizer of the webinar conference again for giving me an opportunity to have a talk for today's webinar session and also providing the great hospitality. So next, I'm going to thank Universiti Malaysia Kelantan for providing the research facilities and also the Ministry of Higher Education Malaysia for providing the research funds. Thank you.
Good morning once again. Now we have one important speaker from Malaysia, Dr. Venkateswara from Universiti Malaysia, Sabah. And he is going to deliver a talk on medicinal plant-mediated biosynthesis of nanoparticles for human diseases. I am happy to share something about him. He is our alumni. So I request him to start his presentation now.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir, for having me here with this. Thank you so much, sir, for having me here in SLI International Webinar on role of nanotechnology in current scenario. My sincere thanks to Professor Sudarshanam, sir, for having me here with this webinar, and also all the organizing members and my co-speakers as well. Okay, the organizing committee, including the Vice Chancellor, Rector, Registrar, Principal, and also Head of the Department of Botany, my sincere thanks to you all for having me here. Well, today I'm going to talk about medicinal plants mediated by biosynthesis of nanoparticles for human diseases. And before going into nanoparticles or medicinal plants, but we must understand what is the importance of health and why every time even our seniors or elders or ancestors say health is wealth. So if you have health, so you have everything with you. So which means once you have health with you, so you can achieve anything, you can earn any kind of wealth, but you have wealth. Now you can observe the pandemic situation in India and across the globe as well, how a single, invisible virus is killing the human beings. So even though we have lots of money, we cannot do anything. So that's the reason health is most important. And the main focus of my talk would be on antioxidants and oxidative stress and also biological synthesis of nanoparticles. So here, coming to next one, the health only, whatever the information I'm providing here, at the end of the day or at the end of the presentation, it will be completely linking with the health and human wellness. So nano, when we talk about nano or nanotechnology or nanosciences, it is not actually a very new world, or it is not a very new subject suddenly appearing, from nowhere. No. Since many years, since few decades, nanotechnology and nanoscience exists in the nature. Even many of the scientists from developed world, they are doing research on nano. Nano means it's very small, which we cannot see with naked eyes. And usually the particles of nano range, be between 1 to 100 nanometers of range. And here you can see different materials which I am showing, like water molecule, glucose molecule, antibodies, viruses, bacteria, cancer cells, and a period, tennis ball, whatever you take, they are composed of so many atoms, so many molecules. And each molecule will have its own diameter. Whenever you talk about diameters or nanometers or millimeters, so it's a bit huge amount when we compare with nanotechnology or nanoparticles. Because the simple basic principle is that when the size is being reduced of a molecule or an atom, the surface area volume, we call it as surface area volume, will be very much larger. The more or the smaller the molecule is, the more the surface area is. So when you have more surface area, you have more absorption, whatever it may be. It can be a drug, or it can be a plant material, or it can be emulsions, it can be nanoformulations, whatever it may be. The absorption of these nanoparticles will be very high, very huge. So that's the reason n number of areas of expertise or n number of research areas or departments, they are using this nanotechnology in every field. Say, for example, engineering, yes, and basic sciences, yes, pharmaceutical, yes, biotechnology, cosmeceutical technology, nutraceutics. So where not? You can name whatever the field exists in the nature, they are using nanotechnologies. And as I mentioned just now, nanotechnology, basically the particles range between 1 to 100 nanometers with very minute size, which we cannot see with the naked eye. And also it has got higher surface volume or larger surface volume. But if you observe, as I said just now, the nanotechnology is not very new. It is existing since few decades. See, in 1959, Richard Feynman, he has already introduced nanotechnology word. Okay, the concepts of nanotechnology. But definition was given by a Japanese scientist later on in the 1960s. So that is why we are now talking about the old picture in a new gallery. So this is actually seems new proverb, which I tried, and I was thinking, old wine in a new bottle. So I was just thinking, and then I have come up with this particular quote, old picture in a new gallery. So, which means we are talking about the old matters, but again, it's so fresh. That's why if some of the continents, say, for example, like in India, we usually say old is gold. So now we are talking about old technologies, and we are talking about old applications. The old technologies, old applications, and now even more new things we can find. So that's what I was mentioning, 1960s and 70s, 50s, the nanotechnology was evolving. And in 74, Norio Taniguchi, a Japanese professor, he has defined what is nano and how exactly nano looks like and what exactly happens when a nanoparticle or nanomaterial formed. Because it all deals with the diameters. It all deals with the range of the particle size. Because as I have mentioned just now, the particle size, the lesser the particle size, the more absorption will be there. So here you can observe it consists of processing of separation, consolidation, and deformation of materials by one atom or by one molecule. It usually happens not in one step, straight away, just like that. It has several steps. That is why we say it as separation. They have to be separated, then consolidation, again deformation. That's how usually nanotechnology or nanoparticles or nanoscience is being educated everywhere. So this is what we usually follow when we synthesize the nanoparticles using biological systems or using physical systems or using chemical systems. Whenever we talk about nanoparticles, the main thing comes to any researcher's mind is the size. And next one is stability. Next one is applications. What exact application it's going to be used. So these are three different types of modes or methods we can synthesize the nanoparticles: physical method, chemical method, and biological method. There are three different varieties or three different methods in physical mode, which is evaporation, condensation, and also laser ablation. If you take in chemical, it's Turkish method and also BSS, we call it as burst reference synthesis. But even though we have physical and chemical methods, they are using lots of physical methods and chemicals are involved in that. That's why my main interest to explain or to mechanistically evolve or mechanistically delve into the things through biological systems, using biological sources as the primary resources for the synthesis. So even here, if you observe biological synthesis, they have microbial systems, fungal systems, algal systems, and plant systems. But even though microorganisms also are the source material for synthesizing the nanoparticles, here in all my research throughout my career, more than a decade, excuse me, I am using plant materials as the source materials to synthesize biological nanoparticles. So that's why we call them as biological synthesis or biosynthesis, because biological molecules are being used as the source material and they will be combining with the metallic ions. Finally, lots of processes will go on once we combine them together. Then finally, we get the nanoparticles, which are considered as safe when compared to the synthetically or chemically produced nanoparticles or drugs. So when we talk about mechanism, or when we talk about formation of nanoparticles or synthesis of nanoparticles, we have different modes actually. One is top-down approach, another one is bottom-up approach. If you observe on your right, top-down approach, which means a bigger macromolecule becomes micromolecule, micromolecule becomes nanomolecule. So that's how usually it happens, which means we take a big rock and making into pieces, finally it becomes a nanoparticle. So that's how macro to micro to nano. And bottom-up approach, so this is usually piling. So we take the building blocks, which means atom by atom. So thereby we try to synthesize the nanoparticles. These two approaches are acceptable, but based on the source materials and based on the size of the source materials and also the metals or metal ions. If you observe the synthesis or the mechanism, how exactly it happens. So you observe here, you can see the metallic ions which are in purple color. So the metallic ions, then these are the bioreducing agents. In our case, the plant materials or the plant molecules are the bioreducing agents, which means biological reducing agents. So they have lots of other, functional groups, whether it can be OH, it can be CHO, it can be anything else. So they have the functional groups which has the capacity to function as the antioxidants or to give more biological activities. Say, for example, antioxidant, antimicrobial, anti-cancer, anti-diabetic, and so on. So once we merge them together, the reduction happens. Once the reduction occurs, then it is being reduced like reduced silver atoms. Once the reduced silver atoms, it grows, finally it has a collision or colloid kind of thing. They appear or they formed as nanoparticles. Here I have mentioned gold or silver, but there are various types of metals are being used to synthesize the nanoparticles using biological sources as the reducing agents. And finally, we check the stabilization. As we all know, medicinal plants usually, play a very important role in various types of diseases. And also not only that, even lots of herbs, we humans in Asian countries, we take raw herbs as food. or as supplement or as medicine. So herbal medicines or herbal formulations, or India is very much known for Ayurveda, and the other countries are also using, Ayurveda, Chinese traditional medicine, we call it as TCM, CTM. So all these combined together, we call them as traditional or complementary medicine. So these traditional complementary medicine always have good benefits to the human beings, and also they usually do not have or do not possess severe side effects. They are with very minimal side effects or no side effects for sure. And that's the main reason why researchers always try to use medicinal plants or natural products or herbal medicines or herbs to synthesize or to prepare the crude extracts, or to prepare the isolated forms, or even prepare the nano formulations. So it is easy to, treat the people with these kind of formulations. As I was mentioning, nanotechnology and its applications have widely been, entered into various types of fields, which you can see food and agriculture. Actually, in food packaging and agriculture, they are using very vigorously this nanotechnology and nanoparticle research products. And energy environment, even energy, solar systems, and other environmental areas, they are using nanoparticles very regularly. Biotechnology, of course, even diagnosing the diseases, even industrial biotechnology also, they are using this nano science and nanotechnology applications. Herbal medicine, definitely, most of the herbal formulations we mix with metallic ions and thereby forming or synthesizing the nanoparticles, and we try to give into the rats, or sometimes we can give into the animal models usually. So in vivo, then we test them. And finally, some of the nano products already out in the market for human usage, especially like cosmetics, nutraceutics, and also some supplements. Textiles, also they are using. Medicine and health, definitely for drug targeted therapies, and also prompt therapies, site specific therapies, etc. And aerospace, yes, for the lightweight materials they are using in aerospace, robotics as well. Information technology, yes. If you observe the size of the laptop, size of the mobile phone, size of the electronic gadgets and other stuff, when compared to the, say for example, compared to a decade before, so now the size of the materials are very less and very light. This is also due to nanotechnology and their applications. So these are three different points I have given for the viewers, easy understanding. They are the fundamental building blocks of nanotechnology, and its starting point for preparing nanostructured materials and devices. And nanoparticles are also useful for various kinds of researches and various types of researches as well. Because as I mentioned earlier, it's mainly because of large surface volume. Even this one I have mentioned, but here I wish to inform you that there are various types of metallic nanoparticles are being synthesized by researchers or scientists. So silver nanoparticles being prepared using silver nitrate, selenium nanoparticles, gold nanoparticles, copper nanoparticles, even zinc oxide nanoparticles, so titanium oxide nanoparticles, various n number of metals are being used to synthesize biologically synthesized nanoparticles. And here we need to remember one thing is the nanoparticles can be synthesized using single metal ion or single metal salt or combination of metallic salts. So it depends on the requirements, it depends on the objectives, it depends on the compatibility of the synthesis. So probably there are some reports saying that some of the researchers they use the combination dual metal nanoparticles as well. So this is how I usually do. So we use various types of plant materials so far, and then we mix with metallic salts, formation of nanoparticles. While formation, there is, as I have mentioned earlier also, there will be reduction first, then again capping, then stability. So these are the various processes and steps happen when the nanoparticles are being formed using biological source materials. So here in this picture, you can observe the yellow color and the purple color or dark color. This is actually the formulation. So the formation of nanoparticles with a color change. This is actually a layman signal that we can confirm that nanoparticles are being formed. And second thing is, to scientifically prove it, we cannot just say that, okay, this has been changed from this color to this color, so nanoparticles are formed, so this is the nanoparticle. No. So to prove it scientifically, we have to go further for the characterizations of biologically synthesized nanoparticles. So then we have confirmed with UV spectroscopy and XRD to confirm. This is to confirm the formation. XRD is to confirm the shape and also the structures of the molecules or particles. This is FTIR, whereby we try to use this FTIR to know which functional groups are really active in the synthesis of nanoparticles. And if you observe this picture, this is actually electronic microscopy, which is SEM or TEM usually we use to identify or to confirm the size of the different particles available in your particular solution. And last one is here, you can see the graph here. So this is actually particle analyzer. This is 100% shows, this usually shows you or gives you the exact size of the particles. Once you finalize this characterization, we will go to the applications. It is again based on the experimental design you have. So we usually do antimicrobial activity, anti-diabetic, antioxidant, and even anti-cancer. So this is a hypothetical diagram which I have been given in one of my articles, and this one is anti-cancer activity, so which I will be showing in the next slides. But basically, when we talk about nanoparticles and biological systems or human health or disease, all of us must remember that oxidative stress is the culprit of all sorts of diseases. Because when we have stress, say for example, in a layman language, when we have stress, we say, oh, I am tired. But when the cells have stress, we call it as oxidative stress. Oxidative stress is the one which is actually an imbalance between reactive oxygen species or free radicals and antioxidants, which are the defensive systems or defensive mechanisms. So when there is an imbalance between antioxidant system and free radical system, then the cells or tissues feel oxidatively stressed, so much stress. So that is why, to make the cells healthy, to keep the tissues healthy, and to keep ourselves healthy, the free radicals, number of free radicals or the quantity of free radicals must be reduced. So antioxidants usually does that work. So this is another pictorial representation of pro-oxidants, which are not good for health. When they are high, then we call it as oxidative stress. So antioxidants are actually less in the body when these pro-oxidants or reactive oxygen species or reactive nitrogen species, or commonly we can call them as free radicals, which are always with the free electron vacancy. So that's how these free radicals or these ROS, RNS will harm the tissues or cells, whereas antioxidants always protect our cells. This is the equilibrium when you have antioxidants and ROS, so no harm. If you have ROS excessive, then you have oxidative stress. You have more ROS, you have excessive oxidative stress also. But when you have continuously excessive oxidative stress within the cell or tissue, then that's going to be harming the cells and also tissue, finally the organ as well. So nanoparticles and their biological activities, what I have reported so far. So I have reported in 2013 in one of the premier journals using these nanoparticles, synthesizing the nanoparticles using one of the plants. This is also from Tirumala Hills. And then we have proceeded with antimicrobial activities on different microorganisms. So we have clearly reported that this particular plant material and biological synthesis of nanoparticles are really good to inhibit these microorganisms. However, this is another article written by me, and I have given 3 different mechanism of actions based on my understandings through my research, and also reading lots of other information as well. So I came to a conclusion, and I have given these 3 different mechanisms, how the nanoparticles interact with bacteria, and then they can finally kill the bacteria. First method, if you observe, it is interaction of nanoparticles with enzymes. Finally, they inhibit the signal transduction. Once they inhibit the signal transduction, finally cell lysis occurs. So when cell lysis occurs, so which means the bacterial growth will not be there. And again, if you observe in the second method or second mechanism of action, they interact the nanoparticles in gram-negative bacteria. Thereby, they usually dephosphorylate the peptides of tyrosine residues. So once they dephosphorylate the peptides of tyrosine residues, certainly it's not going to good for the bacteria. Finally, it leads to the cell lysis. An interaction of AGNPs, which is silver nanoparticles, with cell wall, and release more free radicals on bacteria. Finally, it leads to cell lysis. And this is another mechanism, but this is on uptake by endocytic vesicles. So to explain this, it will take much time. However, I will quickly go through it. So on mitochondria, it produces lots of reactive oxygen species, which means the free radicals. And through that, they do the oxidation of proteins, lipids, and DNA. Finally, leads to apoptosis. Same with nucleus. They arrest the cell cycle and anti-proliferation. So finally, apoptosis. And here you can observe cytoskeletal injuries, apoptosis, and macrophages. This also leads to inflammation. Here you can observe increase or elevated levels of reactive oxygen species, TNF and interleukin 6. And laser-assisted hypothermia. So they usually denature the nucleic acids, which is DNA and RNA, proteins and enzymes as well. So, in another way also, this leads to angiogenesis, and it inhibits that. So finally, starvation, apoptosis. So this is one of the articles which I have reported on nanotechnology and its applications in diabetes. Diabetes is the main core area of my research. So where I have given various information about nanotubes, artificial pancreas, nanopumps, microspheres, nanoshells, quantum dots, layer by layer methods, fullerenes, smart tattoos. All these things are really, very well equipped systems, and they are very good in detecting and also for the applications in the health systems and other areas. So this is the article which I have mentioned all those nanotubes, everything. In the next picture, you can observe the hypothetical picture, which you have nanosensors here, and then automatically whenever the blood glucose levels raised, automatically the sensors gives a beep, and it is just like tattoo. So it gives the beep, or it gives it continuously monitors your blood glucose levels. Once the blood glucose levels are raised, so they give you beep, or they give you the signals. Then if it is lower or if it is higher, then certainly the individual can take necessary actions. So that's how usually things are. But recently what I have read, even these are already in practice at some of the developed world. So even nanotechnology is being used in the diagnostics, drug delivery, and even tissue engineering. One of the most advanced technologies nowadays being used at the advanced laboratories in the Western countries. So this is another example showing that nanotechnology being used in the neurological disorders as well. And this one, which we have clearly depicted in 2016, we have reported that the nanoparticles are clearly invading or clearly killing the cancerous cells. We have tested with a few cell lines. Then they were showing very clear results, as anti-cancer activities. So this we have tested with some of the Malaysian medicinal plants. It shows a very good result. And coming into the research focus in my lab is basically whatever I do, it is completely linking with the human wellness. So natural product. So past decade, I'm completely working on natural product research of herbs. And my core area is diabetes, oxidative stress, antioxidants, cardiovascular diseases, and nanoparticle research. So these are the complete niche areas of my research, which happens at my laboratory, and also my students are working on various aspects. Finally, the conclusion will be into human wellness. So this is one of the anti-diabetic work we have published recently in 2017 with the honey. Usually people say honey is not good for diabetes, but there are various reports saying that even my research also shows that honey also good for diabetic patients. So biological and therapeutic effects of various types of honeys. This is another one which I have shown you the other article with the nanoparticles. So this is actually we have done the isolated compound for diabetes. So this one which I was mentioning about, this clearly shows anti-cancer activity of Urochima longifolia branch extract mediated silver nanoparticles. So this is the one which I have given the 3 different mechanism of actions. This is on agriculture. This is on cancer. So this is again how the formation of nanoparticles occur, capping reactions. The functional groups work as a reductant, bioreductants. So they mingle with Ag ions, silver nitrate, and then they form as silver nanoparticles. Once we formulate the silver nanoparticles using plant materials, so then they can be easily accessible for various types of activities based on the phenolic compounds or based on the secondary metabolites are acting in the formation of nanoparticles. So here we can say that antibacterial, antioxidant, antifungal, antidiabetic, anti-tumor, based on the components they have, they can possess the biological activities. And finally, we know that nanotechnology will change the world. It's time to think about how. So this is actually from one of the scientists from MIT. So he has clearly mentioned that we know the nanotechnology will change the world. Because nanotechnology, as I have shown some of the slides, what areas or what fields they can show the applications. So which means nanotechnology is everywhere. In every field, nanotechnology is being used, and they are trying to use the nanotechnology for various types of applications, from small applications to larger applications, even in aero system, aeroplanes, and also solar systems, even buildings. Also, they are using nano sheets and nano materials or nanomaterial related products, which are with less weight and also long durability. And they, at the particle size, they usually possess large surface volume. That's why they can have more drug onto the surface when we inject into the body of an animal or also a human. So they can go into very narrow places also. If the site is very narrow, then even these smaller particles can reach to the places very easily. So conclusion is nanoparticles play an important role in the human health with ameliorating effects of various diseases such as diabetes, obesity, cancer, and neurodegenerative disorders. So not only this, even cardiovascular diseases, even other diseases as well, even lots of nanoparticles are being used for communicable diseases. Communicable diseases are like COVID, but not for COVID so far, but other communicable diseases or infectious diseases, we call them as. So the nanoparticles or nano medicines have been used or are being trying to use to ameliorate the effects of these infectious diseases and also non-communicable diseases. So, yeah, thank you. But yeah, I could see some of the questions here. Okay, question from one of the participants. Yeah, saying that what is the main mechanism of antimicrobial activity? Yeah, antimicrobial activity, which I have shown very clearly in this particular slide, the three mechanisms, if you observe in this particular slide. So this is the clear-cut picture which has given very hypothetically, and which was also been reported by various other researchers also in the same manner. So I have summarized in this particular article, even we have published it in 2015. And so this particular article is clearly showing that the cell lysis happens in these three manners. Maybe, in other manners also, the bacteria or the microorganisms can be wiped off. And another question here is about anti-cancer activity. So is the anti-cancer activity same with all cell lines? Yes, the cell lines, whatever the activity we test on various types of cell lines, say for example, ovarian cell lines or cervical cell lines, cervical cancer cell lines, breast cancer cell lines, but it depends on the activity of the particular cells, particular nanoparticles. If the plant materials or the plant phytophenols have the capacity to inhibit those cancer cells, then only the nanoparticles can inhibit. But nanoparticles cannot just directly inhibit any kind of cancer cells based on the bioreductant available in that particular nanoparticles, then only it can show the better efficacy and potential activity. Yeah. And many others are just saying thank you. Yeah, thank you everyone. And my sincere thanks, humble thanks to Professor Savithramma sir for having me here in this international webinar on nanotechnology in current scenario. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Venkateswara, for explaining with good diagrams. I hope our audience will be definitely appreciating your presentation. As an alumni of Sri Venkateswara University, we are also thankful to you. Whenever we requested you for giving a talk, you have readily accepted and giving a nice presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. My pleasure. Thank you, sir.
Hello, at the end of this webinar, I propose formal vote of thanks on behalf of organizing committee. We have our Chief Patron, Professor K. Rajareddy Garu, Vice Chancellor, Sri Venkateswara University. We are highly thankful to you, sir, for being a Chief Patron of our webinar. We are also thankful to Sundaravali Garu, Professor. She is the Rector of Sri Venkateswara University, for acting as the patron. Thank you, Madam. We are also highly thankful to our dynamic Professor O. Hussain, Registrar, Sri Venkateswara University, for acting as our patron and permitting us to organize this webinar online. We are also thankful to our beloved Principal and Savithramma Garu for being organizing secretary and also for delivering your talk. We are thankful to you, Madam. We are also thankful to our Department of Botany for making this happen from SLA International Webcasting Center. We are thankful to our first day speakers like Professor Yashwant Pathak from University of South Florida. Thank you very much, sir, for delivering a wonderful talk. We are once again thankful to Professor N. Savithramma for delivering talk on nanotechnology applications. Thank you, Madam, and making the event success. We are also thankful to University Malaysia Kelantan authorities for providing some good speakers like Dr. Huck for delivering fertilizer efficiency nanotechnology. And then thank you, Dr. Huck, once again. Our final speaker today, Dr. Viseswara Rao from University Malaysia Sabah. We are highly thankful to you, sir. Being our alumni, you have accepted to deliver your talk readily, always. We are also thankful to all our collaborators, University Bengkulu, University Malaysia Kelantan, University Malaysia Sabah, MIT, and University in Indonesia. Our technology partners like Veggitech, Kisaan, Hydrilla, dFarms, and our most happening technical partner SRC. Because of them, we are able to successfully organize this event. Our media partner Agritech and Floriculture. So thank you very much once again. See you tomorrow at 9. Thank you.